how can I become a sound engineer? And then the other one says, what are the best ways to learn sound in films?
Mm.
Let's talk about these things together. So generally, becoming a sound engineer, I think first it's important to realize that that could mean 100 different things, and that's what's kind of great about our industry.
I don't really think I could point to the moment I became a sound engineer. I don't think there's a
Yeah,
singular. They don't issue you a pin and be like, "Here's you're now an official." You don't get the diploma. Um,
yeah. I feel like the moment I became a sound engineer was when like I set up my family's first DVD player, and then it was just history from there. And I
yeah,
think that's sort of how. And then I think it's also common that you're going to dabble in different areas. So whether it
yeah.
is sound for music or film or live or whatever, I know a lot of people in our community that do multiple things, and I know a lot of people who specialize in different things. What I'm trying to say is we congregate in the same places. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess maybe you become one way you could think of it as professionally. Like when do you become a professional sound? When do you finally graduate to being a professional sound engineer? Performing the duties of a sound engineer is different than being a sound engineer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to be able to solve problems for people, I guess, and they have to see the value in hiring you to do that. But I guess you start doing it, and then at some point, you find those opportunities to do it for money, and then next thing you know, you're a professional, and all kinds of other woes befall you. Um, uh, I, but the second question about sound for film, how do you learn about sound for film? Um, I teach a course. I mean, my undergraduate degree is in sound design for film and television. You could do that. You could go to college and get the degree like I did. But most of what and I learned a lot at the school I went to, but most of what I learned was on the job, actually mixing films and TV shows. Because that's more about, day-to-day work. But there's a lot to be learned about. I think the first place to start would be to learn about the different departments of sound in films. So there's a lot of different people that work on sound for films, and they don't have anything to do with each other. They don't really work together collaboratively necessarily. Like, for example, the dialogue editor is generally not in close contact with the sound designer. The sound effects editor is usually not the one in touch with the music supervisor. I mean, there's just so many different roles that they do very specific things. So learning about those roles and how they contribute is maybe a good place to start. Start freezing the frame when they do the credits and the sound people come up at the very end. And you start, see what the titles are and then research those titles. You'll find a lot online about them. One thing that I think it's an assignment I give my students, and I think it's maybe it's a time intensive exercise, but it's the one that reveals the most about the most number of things that happen sonically in a film. I have my students pick any feature film they want, any major motion picture, and I try to get them to prioritize ones that includes computer generated graphics or animations and things like that. And they watch the movie 20 seconds at a time, and they write down every sound that they hear in the movie 20 seconds at a time, and what its impact is on the story that's being told. A really well-crafted soundtrack for a film is designed to lull you into non-analytical brain activity. So you don't question what you hear after about a minute of a movie. If it's a decent one, you're sucked in. And once you get that sucked in sensation going on, you're not questioning what you're seeing anymore. But if you just watch it in 20-second intervals, you can't get sucked in. You're only seeing a little small amount at a time. So the story can never like pull your attention away from the analytical bit. And after you do one feature film, once you get through an entire feature film, you'll notice a lot of sounds. And then you can start to describe them and think about how they play a role. And what we invariably learn from the exercise in class is that some sounds are designed to support a narrative in a certain way by taking on certain characteristics, or the way they're presented, or the way they come back, or is this a sound that's happening on screen, or is it a sound that's happening from something that was on screen but now is off screen over here, and we just, the fact that we hear something off screen is telling us something that we wouldn't have seen with our eyes or know from our eyes. That's a designed sound that's important. So that's something you could try. It's not. I found it fun to do. I've done maybe 10 films, and every time I do one, I get something out of it. But yeah, you get an appreciation for the craft for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And I think to answer the more general one, sound engineer, I think that mindset can be applied to the different disciplines also. You establish an understanding of what art and science is within that realm. You start to listen, you start to articulate what you're hearing, whether you're watching the movie 20 seconds at a time or whether you're listening to a song and then really thinking about it or discussing it with others. And then I think that's what an engineer is. It's somebody who understands the system. And then I think it's also someone who learns to operate the system to achieve certain goals,
Right.
and I think that's the second step is you understand what are the goals that can exist. And then you understand what the tools are that can reach those goals. And then you start setting goals and trying to reach them. And yeah, to
Right.
become professional, I think that's a whole different, that's more different, I think, because in some realms you are going to be entirely freelance. And so in
Right.
that case, a lot of that is on you, that burden
Yeah.
of finding opportunities to do it for work. And then in
Right.
some cases, like live sound, you can go get an internship somewhere. A company will tell you, be here at this time, and we set this up for you to,
Right.
so